And are there any challenges that you think businesses are facing in recruitment and HR today?
We're in a different environment. We're in a growth economy, and organisations are having to look at the skills, knowledge, experience that they require in order to deliver that growth. That's different from 5 years ago when we were in recession and people were restructuring businesses to make them more aligned to a smaller business. I think one of the key challenges is around acquiring the right talent, recruiting the right people. One of the things that businesses can do is be very clear about what they're looking for, the skills, knowledge, experience they require, and then thinking more widely about how they can actually access those skills, knowledge and experience.
What is your definition of change management, and how would a business owner be able to tell it's time to implement change?
Change management, I think, splits into two main areas. All businesses are constantly going through change. They need to adapt to the environment that they're operating in, they need to adapt to their clients' requirements, and they need to respond to the needs of the people that work for them. So any business to be successful will be constantly adapting and changing and being flexible and agile. Change management is usually when there is something major or structural that an organisation needs to address, they need to change. And that could be to address a new market opportunity, to launch a new product range. It could be acquiring another business. It could be disposing of a business. But this is a change that has an order of magnitude above the day-to-day, agile, flexible changing of an organisation in response to change in its environment. It's a big structural change of some sort. Quite often there is perhaps a financial imperative, so there may be a requirement to improve profitability. There may be a major change in their marketplace where they need to actually change their product or the services that they're offering. So quite often there are performance indicators within the organisation that indicate that they need to change. It could also be that there is a major influence, a third-party influence, that is dictating that change and imposing that change on them.
Okay. What do you think are the key skills that are required to implement a successful change programme?
There's two aspects to this again. One is around being able to clearly define what is required. So what is the new organisation, the new structure, the new product that's required? How does that differ from the current status? And then being able to plan at every level how each part of the organisation needs to change and respond. So it's the ability to clearly articulate that change, to be able to explain it to people in an organisation, and then be able to put together the detailed plans which will take the organisation from its current status to how it needs to be in the future.
Great, thank you. And what do you think is the number one tip that you would give to businesses who are trying to implement a change management programme?
I think they need to dedicate enough resource to it, and they need to ensure that the whole of the senior leadership team completely buys in and endorses the change, because people will need to understand why they have to do things differently, and people will need to have the skills and knowledge and training perhaps to adapt and change. And if the leadership of the business isn't clear about what that change is and why it's required, then the other people within the organisation are really going to struggle with it too. So it's really being able to clearly articulate what the change is, why it needs to happen, and then be able to communicate that to people on a constant and ongoing basis.
Hi, I'm Nigel Peters, Managing Partner at Allian Partners. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please feel free to visit the Allian Partners website for more information on interim management, or subscribe to our YouTube channel here.